Hi everyone. The piece we're looking at today is in equal parts brilliant and baffling. It's a piece in which instruments don't sound how you expect and misdirection is everywhere. It's Gougalon by Unsuk Chin.
Unsuk Chin was born in South Korea in 1961. She went to Germany to study with one of the giants of 20th century composition, György Ligeti, and remains there today. Her music reflects both European and Asian musical traditions, and in Gougalon, she draws them together to create an imaginary folk music.
The term Gougalon is over 800 years old and derives from Old High German. It can have the following definitions: to hoodwink, to make ridiculous movements, to fool someone by means of feigned magic, and to practice fortune telling.
Gougalon also has a subtitle, Scenes from a Street Theatre, and the piece evokes the magic and excitement of performance, as well as the adversity and struggle of the entertainers. Movement 1 is titled Dramatic Opening of the Curtain, and you can feel the anticipation in the opening strings. They play fanfare-like rhythms, heralding the entrance that the entertainers will meet over the course of the piece.
From the outset, Chin conjures an imaginary folk music with instruments from around the world mixed together. Alongside a list of standard orchestral percussion instruments, Movement 1 features percussion from cultures around the world, including Central and South America, China, Japan, and Tibet.
When the strings strum their instruments in combination with maracas and tambourine, they almost sound like guitars, and the overall effect is evocative of South America.
And the movement ends with a twinkling texture of crotales, triangle, Chinese gongs, and Japanese temple bells. Lament of the Bald Singer is a sombre and melancholy movement. There's something downtrodden about it, like a sad clown. It brings to mind a singing and dancing performer that has had to commodify themselves as an object of comedy to survive.
There's a gritty reality to this movement, yet there are moments when the performer launches into an extravagant twirl in the flute, as if dreaming of better things.
On the surface, this movement seems simple, but not everything is as it appears. The melody we heard in the first example sounds like it's played by a single instrument, but is in fact split between several and is shifting subtly around the ensemble.
Sounds coming from unexpected places is a hallmark of Gougalon. At various points, the brass are asked to play maracas, something that is next to unheard of in traditional classical repertoire. As a composer, you need a pretty big reputation to get away with asking non-percussionists to play percussion. We'd be hounded from the rehearsal room.
I'll make you good!
The xylophone starts this movement like a fortuneteller seeing the future in all of its kaleidoscopic colour, or hawking their services loudly on the sidewalk in a busy part of town.
In movements like this, it's hard to reconcile the music with Chin's note that her titles are not illustrative, because it's so easy to conjure a narrative from this evocative title and music. For instance, in the coming example, it's like the fortuneteller is reaching a state of premonitory frenzy, hunched maniacally over their tea leaves. Next, a series of percussion slaps and magical sounds create a sense of anticipation, as if the fortune teller is leading up to revealing their vision to the customer.
The following section sounds almost comical. Has the embarrassed fortune teller's clairvoyance failed and left them trudging awkwardly through town in their underpants?
Perhaps this is reading too much into it. It's definitely possible to fish for narrative in music where there is none. But what is Chin's intention by giving movements these evocative titles?
This movement features almost exclusively percussion. The winds play percussion instruments throughout, and the brass don't down their percussion instruments for their normal instruments until partway through. Meanwhile, the percussion specialists feature as soloists.
The soloists play cans and bottles. The use of these everyday items adds to the rustic street theatre vibe, as if some musical kids have found a bunch of rubbish on the side of the road. Adding to this childlike sense, the rhythms in this movement stay pretty neat and square compared to the rest of the piece.
The bottles do their best to disguise themselves as a xylophone by playing things that sound almost like conventional scales. If you're listening to the piece without looking at it, you probably wouldn't know what this instrument was. It's a bit like those 90s movies where kids sneak around in trench coats.
In a previous version, the fifth movement was called Circulus Virtuosius, which means vicious circle in Latin. This is appropriate because the music dances in a circle around a single note.
The music begins using just a couple of different notes, returning obsessively to the same one. But as the music progresses, additional notes are added, moving further and further away from the central note. Imagine a group of dancers moving in ever-growing circles around a central fire.
The expansion seems to be spearheaded by the wind instruments. Just over a minute and a half in, the cor anglais and the alto flute begin a serpentine seduction. They spin a winding melody as if coaxing a cobra to unwind. The strings follow them, and surely enough, those tightly bound pitches start to unwind and dance.
So far, we haven't discussed the use of prepared piano, but it's a great example of instruments not sounding how you expect them to in this piece. The term describes the practice of placing objects inside a piano to alter its sound, and was pioneered by the American experimental composer John Cage. In Gougalon, Unsuk Chin has added screws and leather strapping to most of the piano, leaving only the uppermost register sounding like a regular piano. When we hear that untouched register late in movement 6, it's really striking, because we haven't heard it before in the piece.
What we have heard before are some of the ideas in this movement, which acts as a kind of curtain call for the whole piece. The movement is called The Hunt for the Quack's Plait, and it really sounds like a hunt. In her program notes, Chin wrote of wig dealers in Seoul who would take the pigtails of young girls for their businesses.
As the hunting party races through the streets, we dash past some of the wacky characters we met in earlier movements. We hear the brassy fanfare that introduced the show in movement 1. Then the fortune teller. and there are hints of the South American guitar effect we heard earlier in the lead up to the end.
So, there you have it. An introductory visit to the marvellous and sometimes manic world of Unsuk Chin's Gougalon. The way the music hoodwinks and surprises is so fun, and we really recommend that you listen to the whole piece. We'll leave a link in the description.
If you enjoyed this video, do go check out our other visitors' guides to works by Thomas Addis and George Crumb. And of course, do like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.